Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the brand new 2xKO patch 1.0.12 that just dropped. And honestly, this one's not about flashy new characters or massive reworks. It's about something way more important, making the game feel smoother, fairer, and a bit more polished all around. It's one of those updates that doesn't scream hype at first glance, but once you start actually playing with it, you realize just how much it changes the overall flow of your matches. So yeah, let's break it all down and talk through everything that's changed, what it means for gameplay, and why this patch is probably the most quietly impactful one since the game launched. First off, the timing. Servers went down earlier today for maintenance, running from about 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific, which is the usual slot Riot likes to use for this stuff. During that time, you could still mess around offline, but online matchmaking and ranked were obviously off the table. Once the patch went live, a few changes were already active even before downtime ended, like tweaks to champion mastery missions and the store rotation schedule. It's kind of nice to see Riot experimenting with what can be adjusted on the fly versus what actually needs a downtime window. They've clearly been improving their backend flexibility since launch, and you can feel that maturity in how updates are rolling out now. Now, the first thing you might notice when booting up the game is that some of those upper tier mastery missions have been tuned down a bit. If you were grinding the higher mastery levels and felt like some of those tasks were just ridiculous, you weren't imagining it. A few of those objectives were scaled back so they don't feel like such a chore. It's one of those subtle quality of life changes that won't change gameplay directly, but will keep players more engaged long term. And then there's the store. Before, the rotating store switched every 2 weeks, but that's now been shortened to every single week. That's actually great because it keeps the cosmetics feeling fresh and makes checking the store part of your weekly routine. I know some people found themselves forgetting it even existed since the rotation was so slow. This new schedule feels much more modern and responsive. Okay, let's talk gameplay, because that's where things get really interesting. The big topic of this patch is collision. If you've played enough 2xKO, you know that collision bugs have been one of the main sources of random frustration, especially when you're in high-pressure corner situations or when assists are flying everywhere. There were those weird moments where your character or your opponent would just pass through each other mid-attack, or you'd get stuck in these awkward positions where movement didn't behave the way it should. Sometimes you'd even lose track of which side you were on after certain tag sequences, and that was particularly annoying in tournaments. This patch aims to fix all of that. So now characters won't randomly clip through one another when you're close, and throwing out normals or using assists. The devs also mentioned a fix for being trapped between two characters mid-screen, which was a pretty specific but super annoying issue. You'd be caught in this invisible push box where inputs didn't work right and spacing would completely break. That's gone now, and it makes the entire pacing of combat feel cleaner. You can tell when push interactions are happening and predict how far apart you'll end up after a block string or scramble. It's the kind of thing you might not consciously notice right away, but your muscle memory will thank you for it. Corner priority also got a serious overhaul. Previously, certain moves or assists would behave differently depending on whether you were in the left or right corner. Sometimes you'd win an interaction on one side of the screen and lose that same exact setup on the other side purely because of how the corner physics worked. That inconsistency was honestly one of the more frustrating parts of practicing setups, because you'd grind something in training mode and then it just wouldn't translate mid-match. That's fixed now. The corners are symmetrical in terms of collision and push priority. It sounds like such a small thing, but it's one of those core gameplay fundamentals that can make or break the competitive feel of a fighting game. And since we're on the topic of consistency, this patch also brought a handful of character-specific fixes that directly affect combo reliability. Let's start with Yasuo, since he's the one who got the biggest adjustment. His ability, Turbulent Wind, wasn't properly applying its damage scaling on its second and third hits, which meant those follow-up strikes were doing way more damage than they were supposed to. That's been corrected, and now the total scaling sits at about 20% across those hits. The result is that his common combo routes, especially those quick launch-to-air confirmed strings, will deal a little less damage overall. It's not a massive nerf that kills his viability or anything, but it definitely reins him in a bit. Players who are relying on those one-touch or near-touch of death sequences will need to recheck their routes. Expect more two-touch kills now instead of those freakishly efficient one-touch routes. It's actually healthy for the game, because Yasuo was right on the edge of overperforming in too many matchups. Then we've got Warwick, who didn't necessarily get nerfed or buffed, but instead received some key bug fixes that make his gameplay a lot smoother. There was this weird glitch where if you did a handshake tag into his spinning slicer, sometimes the move would just send him flying off screen or away from the opponent, completely ruining the confirm. That's been fixed, which means his tag combos should be a lot more reliable now. Another issue was with his ankle swipe into Primal Leap sequence, which for some reason would just drop entirely when done against Yasuo. That's been resolved as well, so you can expect Warwick's combo routes to work properly across the full roster. These aren't power changes, they're fixes that give him the consistency he always should have had. Echo also got a small but noticeable fix. Arcane Skin had a lingering smoke effect that would stay on screen after he used his ultimate, even when the ability was over. It didn't affect gameplay, but it was a visual bug that looked kind of messy and could make it hard to read what was actually happening in fast-paced matches. That's gone now, so things look cleaner during those intense rewinds. On the stability and performance side, this patch also tackled a few lingering technical issues. First off, there's now a little server status indicator on the main menu, which is honestly a smart addition. Instead of having to check social media or Discord whenever you can't connect, the game itself will just tell you if servers are down or under maintenance. It's simple, but long overdue. They also resolved several random crash and disconnection bugs that were hitting some players at specific points, like during rank promotions or after returning to the lobby from training mode. There was even a weird issue with the rank promotion animation freezing, which apparently has been fixed. For high-level players chasing Grandmaster, the patch also fixed a display bug where your LP total would sometimes show the wrong number on the rank screen. Nothing game-breaking, but it's nice to have those little polish touches in place now. Now let's talk a bit about the broader gameplay impact, because that's what's really interesting about this patch. The Yasuo change is clearly meant to tone down his explosive kill potential just a touch. He's still a strong, stylish character with great neutral tools, but those high damage strings that used to snowball a match from a single confirm will now leave the opponent alive just long enough to make a comeback possible. It brings him more in line with the rest of the cast without gutting his identity. You can still pull off big flashy combos. You'll just need better optimization or a strong assist setup to make it lethal. Expect to see players experimenting with slightly longer routes or adjusting assist calls to squeeze out extra scaling. It's going to be fun watching how the top Yasuo mains adapt. The collision and corner fixes, though, they might be the real game changer here. For tournament play especially, having reliable and consistent interactions means the skill expression can actually shine through. Before this, so many matches were decided by weird spacing interactions or pushbox errors that had nothing to do with player skill. Now when you land a hit or set up a mix, you can trust that the game will behave the same way every time. That's huge for competitive integrity. It also helps training mode feel more useful because the setups you practice will actually work in matches instead of breaking due to random physics differences. Warwick players are probably pretty happy right now too. Those bugs were killing his ability to maintain pressure in team situations. With them fixed, his confirms and O-key sequences should flow better. And since he didn't actually lose or gain damage, this patch doesn't change his strength. It just gives him the tools he was supposed to have all along. He's still going to be that scrappy, rush-down heavy character who rewards aggression, but now you can actually rely on his tag options working properly. If you're someone who likes to lab out tech, this patch is kind of a dream. The first thing you should do is go back to your Yasuo routes and retest your staple combos. Check your damage and see if delaying Turbulent Wind or swapping your assist order brings back your old kill thresholds. You might discover new optimization routes that weren't practical before. Then head to the corner and test your favorite setups involving assists, especially the ones that used to cause side switch issues. You'll notice the difference right away. The character spacing feels much more predictable now, and your opponents can't escape pressure because of some random pushbox glitch. Finally, if you play Warwick, recheck all your ankle swipe to Primal Leap confirms and see how stable they feel across the roster. It's nice to not have to worry about those drops anymore.